Hello, welcome to the Always Be Comedy podcast. Our guest today is the great Vittorio Angelone. Tim, I mean, we were talking about Christmas television. Do yourself a favour and watch Vittorio's latest special.
Yes, absolutely. Vittorio Angelone's new show, it dropped at time recording a day ago, and it's already doing astonishing numbers on YouTube. Vittorio Angelone, who do you think you are? I am. It is his second show. It is wonderful. It's really, really great. I can't really recommend it enough. And he's also on tour next year, starting in January. You can't say nothing anymore. If I may, I think this is his best show yet. It's a really fascinating topic, and I won't spoil anything, but I strongly recommend you go see it.
He's a brilliant comedian, a brilliant dude. Tim is so likeable, so innately likeable.
Yeah, absolutely. So unbelievably charming. The things he is doing, the rooms he is playing on this tour with very much a DIY approach of how he's got to this stage is just incredible. He's doing the Apollo in March. It is just astonishing work from the guy.
A very inspiring dude, Tim.
Hugely inspiring, and genuinely, I think, has changed the industry in a way that not many people have. I think it's a really cool thing.
Total agreement. We are hashtag Team Vittorio. And also, what he's achieved in a relatively short space of time. We discover on the pod, I didn't realise how... not how new, because that sounds like some sort of dig, but relatively speaking,
Yes, yeah.
I mean it as a huge compliment. What he's achieved in the space of a few years is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. But his comedy is so mature and well performed. He is, really think he's properly the real deal.
He dropped some nuggets in this episode. There's one nugget that I keep coming back to. Tim, do you know? I think you know what it is.
I assume it is, and it's about when someone who very much is big telly industry talks about him on something.
Oh no! I mean, now that you've said it, it should, mate. The fact that a couple of comedians have got into manifesting and crystals.
Oh yes, great! Yes, absolutely.
I told Emily, and she was like, "But James, you're already way into that sort of thing."
Yeah.
So I was making like, "Can you believe this?" And she was like, "Yeah, that's what you are."
You're not alone. Yeah. We're all doing it now.
Yeah, I can believe it. All right, okay. But Tim, I wonder if I suspect sales in crystals among comedians will spike a little.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the intel, I'll say no more, but the intel is fascinating.
Yeah, it's very strong. It's really good. Yeah.
There'll always be comedy at mixed bill nights. There'll be behind the bar a row of comedians with a crystal in their hand talking to the crystal.
Yeah, I hope so. That's what I'd love for 2026.
It's the dream. Yeah. 2026 dream. If you also, Vittorio is playing Always Be Comedy. He's doing a show run through. As you can imagine, tickets are selling briskly. We only put it on a few days ago. 14th of January. It's a show run through with the great Vittorio. You can't say nothing anymore. Run through at the Tommy Field, Wednesday the 14th of January. For all this and many, many more, we have the likes of Henry Packer, Kyla Coppola, Judy Love, many, many more, all coming up. alwaysbecomedy.com/tickets. In the meantime, here is the great man, Vittorio Angelone. Right, tell you what, Vittorio, straight out the gates, I think if you're such a natural, is being a comedian, is that from primary school, this is what I want to do, or was it a thing that you fell into? How did it all happen for you?
Definitely not from primary school. Although my mum would have been like, she called it so early. I think when I was 9, I said to her, "What do you think I'll do? Like, what do you think I'll end up doing?" And she said, "Oh, you'll be like a presenter or like a host of something. I think you'll be on TV in some way." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" But in hindsight, probably, I mean, she was wrong with the TV thing. But but she was very switched on. And then when I was 10, I was cast as like the jester in my primary school sort of pantomime thing. And I went home And this is such like an origin story. I went home and watched Billy Connolly, Peter Kay, and Chris Rock and took notes on how they were being funny and how I could therefore be funny in my primary school band.
I mean, that's a holy trinity, to be fair.
Yeah, the Chris Rock stuff didn't land quite as well as I was hoping it would.
I was going to say, what did you take from those? Like, how did that manifest itself in the performance?
There's two types of people from Belfast, Catholics and Protestants, and the Protestants have got to go.
Oh, that is. I mean, right. That's the end of the podcast. Thank you. That you were not. It's not getting any better than that. Oh my god. The listeners who know what that is will be going. Oh, that. People will be driving, taking their hands off the steering wheel. Oh, that is. Sensational. So as that's happening, your mum must have been like, this is all going to plan.
Yeah, I don't like. She never had like wanted me. She was very very supportive in a general sense of like whatever you want to do, we're super happy with. And then when I was 17, I started auditioning for music colleges because I wanted to go become a classical orchestral musician. And that I think maybe I went to a comedy gig for the first time when I was 17 and went to like Lavery's Comedy Club in Belfast, which is run by Colin Geddes, and probably saw people like Mickey Bartlett and Aaron McCann and Shane Todd and those types of people. And then moved to London at 18 to be a classical percussionist. And then amongst all that was going to Angel quite a lot because it was just up the road. My course was in like Barbican. And it was free, and I thought this is amazing, like really exciting to. I remember one of the first people I saw was like Lauren Pattison, and I was like, oh God, this is like it was just so like cool and exciting. And sort of halfway through my studies, I was like, well, I'm not going to see very many orchestras, but I am going to see a lot of comedy gigs and a lot of like theater. So I actually auditioned for drama school in my last year of music college to like be an actor. Didn't get in hindsight, thank God, because that was 2019 and would have been going to drama school in 2020, which would
Yeah.
have been awful. And then just started running stand-up comedy nights at my university. So like just hosting them. I was like, let's do a freshers comedy night. And they were like, who should host it? And I was like, me, why not? And I booked a friend of mine, Serafina, who was doing sort of open mic nights. I booked David McSavage actually, but he didn't turn up in the end or like cancelled the day before. And then I booked a band of man because Sam, who used to play xylo synth and drums and stuff with the band of man, was a few years above me on the same course at Guildhall. So my first gig, oh, and to replace David McSavage, I'd seen Josh James win King Gong the week before. So I messaged him on Facebook and was like, do you want to come do 10 minutes at this gig? I'll pay for your train from Essex.
Tim, which two acts were we talking about?
We were talking about Josh James, yeah, and a band.
That's
And a
so
band of man.
funny.
Yeah,
That's so funny.
I think Josh James' career at the moment is just incredible. He's
Yeah.
like he keeps getting all these amazing things.
Well,
It's
is that
it's really
Vittorio?
cool.
He's made it happen himself.
He has made it himself. Yeah, absolutely. Him and his mate he does a podcast with are going to be hosting the Fix Radio thing, and he's
We
doing.
were, like,
Yeah.
we were basically giving like 3 cheers to him, weren't we? And we were like, oh,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
he's
yeah.
done, he's done so well, you know.
I was actually out for dinner with him recently because I had to go to Essex to get autism recently.
Oh, yeah.
And and he was like, I'll take you to a nice place. And we arrive and I was like, oh, have you been here before? Like any recommendations? He was like, it's all class. And it was the most Essex restaurant where they did curry, pizza, steak, and burgers. And I was like, there's no way this is all good. Josh, there's no way this is all good.
What did he get?
Got the steak. That felt like a pretty safe bet. And it was decent. Although halfway through the steak, they brought out the steak knife after I'd been battling with a butter knife for 20 minutes. Hey, why have you done this to me?
If a restaurant is basically doing a journey around the culinary world in the same restaurant, it's not happening.
I'm not
You did the
trusting
right
it.
thing. Steak, chuck it on, a couple of minutes each
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
You can't get that wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd question the curry. Hang on, Tim. Sorry, go on.
No. You got your steak. Did you get your autism?
Oh yeah, I've got both. Full house.
Great.
Comedian bingo. Autism and ADHD. Fuck off.
Oh wow! Ord DHD. Great, good stuff.
It is what I was like. I I like the autism one. I don't like the ADHD. Do you know, like, I think we all have our preferences, we all have our tendencies. I think I'm more of an autism guy than ADHD guy, but it is nice. The number of comedians that have said to me, like, oh, I couldn't do like all the extra stuff that you do because I have ADHD. Like, I just couldn't, whatever. And now I can be like, what was that? Sorry, are you too distracted to subtitle things? Fuck off.
Hang on, does the ADHD not help you be able to do other stuff though?
I don't know. People say it's hard to like focus and do all the admin stuff that I would maybe do and maybe the subtitling. But it's this thing of like the hyper focus and everything, but I don't really know how any of it works. And I don't really know why I got diagnosed with either of them, but it just felt interesting.
A comedian friend diagnosed me with ADHD. She went, it's like you and me, James. You know, you and me with our ADHD, and then she carried on talking, and I was like, is this how I find out?
Yeah, it is. What is it? Dan Rath has that amazing joke of like they're the Mormons of mental health conditions. Like they try to recruit you as well.
Oh my god, brilliant!
Yeah, he's the best. He's so funny.
He's great.
Now, Victoria, please talk us through the talk. Well, listen, many thousands of people have got their tickets already, but to anyone who's not yet all aboard the Vittorio bandwagon, please talk us through it.
Tour around the UK and Ireland starting in sort of mid-January. It's all selling pretty much very well, barring your Colchesters and your Canterburys. I'm not a hit in the home counties. Who would have thought? But yeah, it's my biggest tour yet. Sort of making that jump where it's all theaters. It's no comedy clubs, which is quite exciting. And Tim, you've seen the show. It feels like a show that sort of lives in a theater space slightly more than it lives in a comedy club. We've got lighting, we've got sort of music and cues, and it's all just got this sort of theatrical twist to it, while hopefully still being, a very punchy stand-up show is my aim.
Well, I've only seen it in comedy clubs and it always hits there. But like, yeah, I think, well, I'm probably going to go see it at the Apollo and just like thought of that show, which I've only seen from 70 people, is just going to be like bonkers in.
I'm very excited about the Hammersmith Apollo. I'm really trying to come up with so many stupid ideas to make that like the best show
Yeah, yeah.
ever, like really throwing the kitchen sink at it and like just eating into the money because it's an expensive place to do. But I'm just like, yeah, but it has to be big. It's such a big stage. You got to do something funny. I really wanted to get like a shit version of the Live at the Apollo sign made. Like maybe just on like an enormous bed sheet. We just spray paint Live at the Apollo, and then I walk like have to lift it up myself, and I walk out from underneath it. And instead of the smoke machines, it's just Mike Rice vaping like fucking.
Yeah.
I was going to say, blowing those bubbles that kids have, you know.
Sean Walsh had that for one of the first DVDs. It's sort of like a smashed up Apollo sign.
That's right. He
Oh
did it with
wow.
Widdicombe, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So as he walks on, the sign falls off or something, doesn't it?
I don't know. All I can remember is like that picture of like him in front of a like lopsided Apollo sign.
See, this is when the DVD companies paid for all that. I
Yeah.
have to pay for whatever the fuck happens at this show.
Well, are you like maybe getting ahead of ourselves? But are you going to film the show? And I know you prefer a smaller venue for filming it, but is this going to be your big theatre big theatre special?
I just don't, and I'd love both of your thoughts on this. And Tim, we've spoken about this a little bit. I just don't think filming a show in a big room is worth what you gain. I think maybe what you gain is like, oh, look at him, he can play a big theater, and
Mm.
it's a sort of dick swinging contest. But I think it slows down the pace of the stand-up way too much for somebody watching in their living room
This is what
because you
Shane
don't
told.
laugh as much as a theater audience. You want it to like tick along really, really quickly. And God, the arena ones, there's like a Kevin Hart one on Netflix that just drags because he's waiting for the echo to come back
Mm.
and it's just like, no, this is for people to watch at home, and you have to tailor it for the people that are
Yeah.
watching at home.
Was it Shane? Did Shane Todd say something similar recently
Yeah, he
to you?
did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just the other week. Yeah.
I'd say you and Shane would know what you're talking about there, Vittorio. I strongly suspect there's definitely something in that. So would you deliberately record it at one of the smaller shows then?
Yeah, I think so. So we're extending the tour into the autumn with some extra UK and Ireland, and then going to like Australia and New Zealand.
Ooh,
Um,
lovely.
and I know a non-festival Australia run. What a thrill.
Wow. I've never seen the like.
Um, I know. There'll be no there'll be no British invasion comedians to hang out with.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
shame in a way.
yeah, yeah.
But
Um, and I don't. So my first special, I filmed it to like 55 people in a record shop in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And then my second one is to 200 in Glasgow, which comes out on Boxing Day on YouTube because Netflix said no.
And that, no shame in that.
No shame in that. No shame in that. Um, and then yeah, I haven't decided where exactly I want to film it yet because I made a huge mistake on the last tour where I filmed it too early and then like humble wasn't expecting the tour to get extended as much as it did, but it basically got it extended for a year after the show where I filmed it, and I just thought the show changed so much. Like a
Sure.
15-minute story went and the structurally went all over the place, and I did lose 2.5 stone. I was like. So I spent all of the money again to film it again in the exact same place, sort of a
Oh
year
wow.
apart. And I'm gonna release the old version on like Patreon to be like, here's the show a year, like 6 months into the tour, and then 18 months into the tour, and sort of compare
That's
and
great.
contrast because I think that'll be interesting for the real nerds.
you've got. I mean, this has all happened in a relatively short space of time. I mean, what I'm saying is, I mean, it's incredible, isn't it?
I mean, it's mad. I remember my girlfriend at one point I started like putting clips out and doing this, and she goes like, "And how long do you think this will take to like, like become a bit of a thing?" And I remember looking at sort of examples of comedians who'd gotten big online, and I sort of said to her like, it might be 9 or 10 years before this sort of pays dividends. And she just sort of big deep breath was like, "Okay, I'll I'll stay on board with this." But I think I just got very, very lucky and for whatever reason learned a few lessons quite quickly, and shit that I was throwing at the wall seemed to stick and people seemed to resonate with it, which I've really like I've spent a lot of time trying to analyze like why it sticks and why I can sell more tickets than somebody with my size following should be able to sell, and why is it working in a way that it doesn't seem to work for people that I think are like better than me at stand up. You see these people and you go, God, why has it worked for me? And then I met Darrow Brain once and he was like, don't question why it's working. Just
Yeah.
you'll drive yourself mad with that. It just works for some people. Some people have a face that people like to look at and just keep going.
But what's so weird is you're sort of like people will sometimes talk about you as like the online clip comedian, but
Mm.
literally every single comedian, even like people who've been doing arenas for 20 years, are clip comedians now,
Yep, yep,
essentially.
yep,
Yes.
yep, yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
and
such
they
an
all
odd
need to
thing.
buy better cameras. The number of millionaire comedians who are clearly filming on their iPhone, and I just think, pay a lovely little boy to put a nice camera at the back of your show. Even Dara O'Brien was like, flip six, because of you, I have to set up a tripod at the back of the gig. I was like, Dara, you don't have to do that.
Wow, that's mad.
So what should they do? They should hire a proper, not film company, but what? Someone with their own proper
Well, you look at
camera.
like Jeff Innocent, he hired Sam Picone to like clip up all of his sort of comedy store sets, and then he sort of organized the whole tour for him, opened for him on the tour, produced and filmed the special, clips up the special at Stratford East, and it's like that's probably the best decision Jeff has ever made to just
Yeah.
bring on somebody and spend that little bit of money. Like, I don't know, all these road dog comedians who sort of look down their noses at clip comedians or online people and how they're not doing it properly and they couldn't do it in the clubs. It's like, if you think your Club 20 is that good, go do it at the Comedy Store and put out all the clips. I'm not even saying you have to spend money to film it properly, but maybe take like a weekend of money and pay somebody to clip it all up properly and see how it goes online. Because then we'll all know if you're 20, is that fucking good or not?
What were you finding was resonated then? Was it more topical stuff, crowd stuff, general stuff? What?
When I started, it was crowd stuff just because of that classic thing of, oh, well, I have to do like my debut at Edinburgh, so I can't be like burning any of this material. Um, Even though in sort of a fit of productivity, I did just clip up all of my jokes over the pandemic because I was like, well, it's dead. We're never going to be able to do it again. So I just put them all out. But then they did fine online and like some of them got a bit of traction. But I sort of deleted all of those before I went and did my debut and then toured that show um, as it went on. But like, it was crowd work, clips, little moments. I had sketch characters. But my thing with the sketch characters is anytime they started to go well, I stopped doing them because I didn't want to become one of the people that's like welded to their sketch character. Um, so like people would be like, "Oh, you should do that every week. That's really recyclable." And I would just go like, "No." Um, I was really averse to that. I've always been very averse to having like a shtick, which I guess people would probably argue with that. Like I very much do have a shtick of like a sort of contrarian anti-English thing. Um, but I just I try to avoid that as best I can. I try to avoid going like, what do people want from me or what's working, and just make what you want to make a little bit. So yeah, it was probably crowd work at the start, and then I was very fortunate. People like the Have a Word Boys had me on very early on, and they gave me the cameras for free to film my first special. And um, yeah, the support of other comedians, and Dan had me open on tour for him, which basically gave me the space because I'd been on their podcast to write my second show in front of like supportive audiences, doing 20 minutes in lovely venues, opening for Dan. Um, so yeah, all of that, like I do have a real debt of gratitude to those lads massively for giving me that platform to, sort of build something from.
I think the insight you could give to we have lots of people who are starting out on their comedy journey, listen to this
Mm.
podcast, right, and it's reflected in their emails and DMs and what have you. What would you say to those guys starting out? Would you just say film everything, clip up what you can, or something else?
No, I don't think that. I think hosting I think is really good for people who are starting comedy. If you can start your own night, number one, you get way more stage time, but also it forces you to be yourself on stage. Like there's only so much artifice you can have while
Yes.
emceeing versus doing like a set. I think it's easier to have a shtick when you're doing a set, but with emceeing, like because of the improvisational nature of it, you sort of have to have more of you in there. And I think learning how to be you on stage is like a very helpful thing to do early on. And then you can consciously do something different. But I think learning how to be comfortable in yourself on stage. And look, if something happens, post it, great, do whatever. But like, you don't want to be one of these new comedians who has a clip go mega viral and then they have to do a sort of and friends show promoted by
Oh
Live
my
Nation.
god.
Because it's just like, great, you'll sell
Specific
out
thing never heard of my life.
you'll sell out. There's about eight of them that have done it. It's
I
brutal.
mean, it's fascinating.
It is fascinating. I love it. I absolutely love it.
So that
Because you
so that
can't, you're like, fair enough, like, of course, do that, like, but don't get caught up in the competition thing, like doing the 5 minutes, working on your best five. I remember being surrounded by so many people that were obsessed with doing their best five. But I think partly because I was so aware of the Belfast scene of like, you're doing 10, you're doing 15, you're doing 20. It's all about turning over material and it's a smaller pool of audience, so they're all turning over material at this incredible rate. And that was always a focus for me of like once you have 5 minutes that works, start again, work on another 5 minutes, like just keep churning that out. But one thing that I've disagreed with comedians for, somebody I was with another comedian who I won't name because I'm sort of slagging them off. And somebody asked both of us, like, what's your advice for starting comedy? And the other comedian said, go full time as soon as you can. And I said, no, don't
wow.
do that. That's crazy because that immediately puts financial pressure on you pleasing a promoter or being palatable to a club audience and traveling around and doing these gigs that do make you worse. I argue with people a lot like about whether doing these 20s to a bunch of stag doos like doesn't make you better. And I think maybe a couple of years of like learning your chops a little bit is helpful, but I don't think there's much benefit in that. So I think if you can support yourself in a different way that gives you freedom to basically do what I did, where anytime a comedy club didn't book me, like there's so many comedy clubs in this country that I've done 60 at before I ever did 20.
What? Because they wouldn't book you for the club night, but they
The
booked you for.
Glees, the stands, and the store, I did my tour show before I ever did a 20 on their weekends.
Wow.
And that was my mindset when they said no to me, like applying or like doing an open spot. I just had it in the back of my mind of like, oh, I'll just sell out your club. Like, and that seems like arrogant or, very sort of American or something, but like that was genuinely what I was thinking of. Like, I don't need you to let me in. Like, I'm just gonna be um someone that you can't say no to at a certain point.
When Richard Osman name checked you on Rest is Entertainment,
Game
it's very pop.
changer.
Was
Go
it?
on,
Game changer.
please go on.
The change, so for people who don't know, Richard Osman, the rest of entertainment, gave me a little shout out as an example of a comedian who hasn't needed the TV thing, built a big touring career, or audience, and there was a thing of him saying like, but like, what TV show would you even put Vittorio on? And I remember at the time thinking, well, I don't know if you've heard of Richard Osman's House of Games, but I think I'd like to be on that, please. Just a man who has a TV show named after him going, Uh, a real head scratcher, Richard. But the great thing about the rest is entertainment is the whole industry listens to that podcast. The producers, the commissioners, everybody at every level, like it's really big because it's so inside baseball in there. And particularly Richard, I think, is very, very insightful from a production side of things. And the change in the number of production companies that were interested and the meetings I could then have and the phone calls I was getting and the emails that my agent was getting off the back of that was crazy because what I'd been told by agents for my whole sort of short career was, oh, these people just haven't heard of you. Like, and that's their sort of fault because you're like doing very well and like nominated for best newcomer and all that stuff. But they just like so many of them have not even heard of you. And that was just a real light switch moment of Richard Osman generously going, oh, I'm just going to shout this person out on the podcast because I think they're doing well. And he'd like seen me in Edinburgh one year. And it truly, like, I think that changed the trajectory of my career, particularly in the past sort of 6 to 12 months. I'm now seeing the dividends of like the bookings coming in and I'm doing my first TV bits. And I genuinely think none of that happens without Richard Osman sort of shouting out on the podcast.
Jesus Christ!
I had no idea. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
That's
Unbelievable,
that's
completely
like
mad.
that's like a 2025 equivalent of Johnny Carson, isn't it? No, like
Yeah,
genuinely.
come sit down and we'll have a chat.
If you get the finger wagger over to sit down, and
Mm.
so Osman gave you the finger wag there.
I know, and it's funny, like, and my first big TV appearance in Ireland, he was one of the other guests on the Late Late Show. So it does feel like I can't do a TV appearance without him being there. Um, but yeah, and I did do House of Games eventually and did far too well for some of the audience's liking.
Sort of infamously brutal online audience.
Yeah, yeah, myself and Angela Barnes have suffered the slings and arrows of the House of Games audience.
What now? What is that? I've never watched the show,
Oh, it's great.
but what is that? Hang on, that's no shade. That's just the vagaries of
No, no, no.
always be comedy and
Yeah,
having kids and so
yeah,
on.
yeah.
But what's the deal there with their following? Because I've seen some of the comments before, and it's feeding time, isn't it? I mean,
I,
there's a comedian we all know who went on there, and it was brutal.
I think daytime TV audiences in general are really brutal.
Go on.
That's my theory.
Well,
Well, I
well,
just
my thing is, and it's why been slightly. I think it's part of the reason I can be guilty of being like anti-industry or a bit like antagonistic towards the TV side of things. and sort of telling them all to fuck off on my podcast every week and saying more and more. The more TV opportunities I get, the more offensive things come out of my mouth on the podcast, and it is just my like child brain like trying to reject them before they reject me, and I really need to get it in check. But I think part of it is a fear of like if you see multiple clips of mine on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever your chosen social media platform is, then that's because you have probably liked one of them before. And generally, it'll be a trend if it's in your algorithm because you've liked it, or you're one of these insane people on Facebook who comment on everything I post because you hate it and keep asking, why is this coming up on my feed? And it's like, well, it's because you fucking comment on it every single time a video of mine gets posted. But generally, it's like when you have an online audience, it's a bit of a cult following, particularly with the podcast of like everybody who comes up to me in the street is like excited because they're like, "Oh, you're great," because the only people that know who I am like me. Whereas something like House of Games and even something like Taskmaster, which I obviously haven't done, um, is it's a lot of people's favorite show, and it is their appointment of you. They sit down and they build their day around watching this show. So if you rub them up the wrong way on that, it's not like they just find you annoying. You've also ruined their favorite show. And I think that's the difference maker of like it's not that they don't like you, it's they like the show so much and their perception is that you've fucked that up for them.
So it's territorial.
Yeah. This is my thing and you're ruining. It's like you're in their living room. You're going into their house and ruining their afternoon.
Now, have you told have you told Richard Osman that changed the game for me? That shout out.
Yeah. Every time I see him, I'm like, thank you.
What does he say? I mean, I wonder if that's news to them that their podcast is as influential as it is.
No, I think Osman is very attuned to that. And I think that's why I really appreciate that shout out so much because he knows the difference that can make to somebody's career trajectory or career opportunities. And he's just very like humble about the whole thing. Anytime I say it, like I'm like, oh, thanks again for the shout out and the thing. It really did make a massive difference. He's like, oh yeah, of course, don't worry.
That's so nice.
Yeah. I like these people like him and Graham Norton that like go to the Fringe every year and are actively they're not just going to see their mates or going to see, the shows they know will be good. Like they're taking a punt on things and going and they want to support and find like the new people that are coming
Graham
up.
Norton is a mensch. He's a real champion of comedy and comedians.
I'm always so impressed by his Fringe recommendations. They are they're all over the place. I was going to see Dan Tiernan, he's seen Patty Harrison, he's seen Cat Cohen.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like a PRE list. You know what I mean? It's not the Guardian's top 50, whatever. It's just here's what Graham likes.
Absolutely right. It's not like, and I'm going to recommend some bands. Number 1, the Beatles. Number 2, the
Yeah.
Rolling Stones.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, last night, at the time of recording, I warmed it up last night, and you had Michelle de Swart on, and you could tell that Graham was a legit fan of Michelle de Swart. And again, we all love Michelle, good pal, and so on. But it's not like he's recommending, say, a McIntyre or a Mickey Flanagan. That's a really great. Yeah, Tim, it's a knowledgeable pick.
Can we say best to ever do it, Graham Norton, the chat show thing?
In my opinion, yeah.
We talk about this quite a bit. You can't give the guy enough credit to do the caliber of guests that they get and the way that he involves everyone is just it's like a magic trick. I mean, have I got my Letterman t-shirt on? No, fuck. I'm David Letterman to my boots. But the interviewing was the weakest part of the show. Whereas Graham, it's such a skill to do what he does. And part of Graham's genius is he never makes it about him. If you watch every single episode of that show, we, the viewer, don't really know anything or much about Graham at all. And fuck me, that is extraordinary.
Did you know he's gay?
What are you talking? Tim, there's the clip. I mean...
But also, like before he was in like Pleasance Upstairs or something in like the 90s, And like the idea of seeing him in like an 80 seater is just
Yeah, yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Can't
I wonder if
fathom.
he'll do a big
I
return
just,
to stand
I
up
just
tour.
thought that because he's got funny bones. Obviously, a brilliant comedian. Knows when to chip in with the the
Mm.
callback or the gag that's needed, or he knows how to
Mm.
tie and someone else's anecdote in a bow or what have you. He's got the chops. I wonder if there's a part of him that's like, I could go on tour, but I don't know. It's a big commitment, though, isn't it?
Has he done like those book tours or something? That's sort of like
Yes.
An
veering
evening
into it,
with.
isn't it? That's
Yeah.
sneaking into it where you can do like funny anecdotes.
De facto
But
stand
there's
up.
lots of the sort of old TV heads like Greg Davies back on tour. He's just finished it, hasn't he? Um, but I think people are sort of remembering that live stand-up is like, I mean, it's also in such a boom now that I think people are sort of realizing that there's quite a lot of money to be made in live stand-up touring.
Also, I mean, I was chatting with one of the dads on the school run this morning, and I'm saying this while I'm touching wood and sign of the cross. Is this? Please tell us, this is an AI-proof industry as well, isn't it?
The live thing is, isn't it? Like Tim Key will be fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like true live performer of like you got to be in the room and like it's not him if it's filmed because he doesn't fucking film any of
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So true.
But it does feel like there's something very real about it in a live sense, and I'm hoping that like even though we've had this real proliferation of like people consuming an unholy amount of stand-up on their phones. I'm hoping that like a side benefit of the death of culture that is AI will be that people can't really trust their phones anymore, which I think is already happening. I think
I
people are going like,
agree.
"Oh, is that real? I'm not sure about that. I don't know." And like we even did something on our podcast about like there's this video that went around of like Japanese people covering Oasis. And it's like like this bizarre sort of traditional Japanese instruments and people singing Oasis. And we were laughing about it in the pod, and somebody replied like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure that's AI." And we were like, "No, no!" Like that's the first moment of like, "Fuck, am I 60? Am
Yeah.
I a boomer sharing a video of like a bird that transforms into a tiger?"
Is
And going,
it?
"How did they do
And
that?"
was it AI, the Japanese
Don't
Oasis?
know. I don't know. I need to give it a Google. But I'm hoping that that lack of trust in our phones will make people go, oh, well, I better go see him at a theater or at a comedy club. And maybe I'm being very optimistic about that, but I think that could be a consequence.
I warm up for Martin Lewis on Tuesdays, and more than once he's had to say, I got an email, someone asking if that video of me advertising whatever is real, and he's like, it's always AI. I don't do adverts, but it's creeping into the not
God.
creeping in. It is in the mainstream now, where people at home probably know that the stuff that they're watching is
It
bullshit.
feels too late to legislate as well, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's the genie's out of the
The
bottle.
genie's out of the bottle.
And yeah, what on earth do we do about it? But hopefully the live experience becomes all the more valuable.
Right, Victoria, you're curating your dream comedy gig. Do you have any pre-gig rituals?
I touch my toes before every time I go on
Can
stage.
you touch your toes without bending your knees?
Yeah, and I think it's because I do it before every gig, so I'll never not be able to do it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's half the reason I do it is that if I just do this before every time I go on stage, then I love the idea that I am just bending my knees and touching my toes before a gig,
That's what
like
that's that'd be me
just
at
lifting
47.
my feet to my hand. Um, um, but yeah, it's partly just like, oh, I'd like to maintain this hamstring flexibility, so I've linked it to gigging, and now it's become a little um ritual before shows, but I think I'd maybe like to build a few more. There was a lot of crystals at Edinburgh this year. I don't know if you were privy to the crystal chat that was going on amongst the sort of boys of the Edinburgh Fringe this year.
Well, I was going to say, if I had to guess one person, Lou Sanders is obviously, even the listeners will be going, Lou Sanders. So it's gone beyond Lou Sanders with the crystals.
Dan Tiernan's the king of crystals.
Is he?
Dan Tiernan was charging his crystals by the full moon and buying more and more crystals every week of the Edinburgh Fringe and had them all laid out in the green room and would like talk to the crystals before the show, and then Ed Knight and Mike Rice both got into the crystal thing. So they all had crystals in their pocket on stage with them
Crystals is the new
that they'd
Coke.
given they'd given yeah they'd given intentions to, like they would talk to the crystal before going on and being like, "Can you help me with this?"
This
Yeah,
is incredible. So hang on, by the end, hang on, sorry, Mike Rice.
Ed Knight, Dan Tiernan.
Any more? Did he go beyond that Holy Trinity?
I think those are the three. They were the sort of three musketeers of crystal worship of the Edinburgh Fringe. And look, Dan and Ed both got nominated for Best
Well,
Show.
to be honest with
So
you,
there's
you've
something
taken
in
the words
it.
out of my mouth because I imagine right now there's a little spike in crystal sales going on. The more you're talking, Vittorio, people at home. So I was Google that crystal, yeah, Amazon. Right.
And it's so funny that Mike was like, I was like, "Oh, Mike, why don't you think it like worked for you?" And he was like, "Well, I didn't ask for a nomination from the Crystals, so why would they give me that?"
Tim, is it too late to ask Santa for crystals?
Oh, I know, honestly.
Funny.
That is brilliant, Tim. That might be the best. Might be the best pre-gig rich answer I've ever heard. The boys of the boys
The lads
of
are getting into
comedy.
crystals. I love it.
The lads are getting into crystals.
You know, as someone who's more than dabbled in that world, I'm intrigued. Who would MC the gig, Vittorio?
I think it's tough to look past Kitson, and I'm sure you've had this answer before, but I do think Daniel Kitson is probably the best in the moment comedian. He's also probably the best written comedian that I've seen. Kitson's truly my hero. I don't think very many people would like guess that of like I think every comedian has someone that they're worried they're trying too much to be like, and mine is definitely Kitson.
Well,
Um,
that's great because sometimes you get a comedian say something like, I'm a big fan of Noel Fielding, and you're thinking, yeah, mate, we can all tell.
yeah.
Whereas, you've
Don't
done
talk
half his
about Joe
act.
Ken Walters like that.
Oh no, God, no! It was. Oh my God, no, no, that was not where I was going with
Keep
that.
it in, Tim. Keep it in.
Oh my
Don't you
God! I
dare
mean, yeah,
edit
you
that
got to
out.
keep it. Yeah, you've got to keep it in, but please no.
Gotta keep it in.
The fact that I put my hands to my face suggests that that was not where I was going with it.
I'm being so horrible. That was
But
so nasty of me, and I'm so sorry.
but what I'm saying is, you're right. You wouldn't have. I say it as a compliment to both you and Kitson. You wouldn't have guessed that, would you?
No, but I do just think he is magic. It all just works, and even when you see him do this like beautifully crafted scripted show, it is how he deals with the unexpected that you remember. I remember the first time I saw him was at the Camden Roundhouse, and all my friend Sam, who was in a band of man, said to me,
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go take you to see a show." And I was like, "Okay, what is it?" And he was like, "I'm not telling you, but I'm just gonna go take you to the show." And I had only just started doing open mic stand-up comedy, and he was like, "I'm just gonna go take you to this show." And he brings me along. It's a 2 hour long show, no interval, and very Kitson. If you go to the toilet, they like seat you at the back. And I do have a worry that I have been like evangelizing about how brilliant Kitson is on podcasts a bit too much recently, to the point where I've never met him, but I'm worried that he'll be like annoyed.
Oh, I don't think Daniel Kitson's ever listened to a podcast in his life. I think he'll be
Okay,
fine.
good. As long as I'm not talking about him on Resonance FM, then
Yeah.
he won't hear it. So yeah, I just think yeah. So I saw all this, and it's this amazing show where he does like 7 stories that weave together over the course of 2 hours, and he turns around, the lights come up on different sides, and it's like a complete masterpiece. But the thing that sticks in my mind is that one time he turned around and the lights came up on a different side, and he just went, "I can't remember what happens next. So we've got 2 options. Either you give me a second, or we go back to the start." And it was just that moment of like, wow, that would have been such a blind panic and such a like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But just cool, calm, collected, easily distracted, brilliance. Yeah, I think he's the best.
Superb. What sort of stuff have you seen when he's MCing? We had someone on, and they said that he just started singing a song about what he was going to have for his tea or something like that. Is that right, Tim? It was something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Just great.
He loves a wee song. He
And there
loves
was
it. Atrever paro.
that one, I think it was Marcus Brigstock was talking about. They did like a
Yes.
hat collection for some guy to see,
A
like a
museum or
paint,
something?
yeah, a painting in Paris or something.
It was this kid's
Um,
ambition to see a painting in a music, and he got.
Yeah.
Tim, that's such a good. Yeah, your story's better than I said.
And then, like a year later, like Kitson sees him and brings him on stage. He was like, how do you like the painting? The guy's like, it was great. Thank you very much. And sat him back down. That was it.
So good. That was
That
it.
was that was amazing as well. I remember the first time I sort of did this at that Roundhouse gig as well. He sort of turned around and went, "You've been before," like in the run of the Roundhouse to somebody in the second row, and this guy was like, "Yeah," and Kitson was like, "You were sitting over there last time," and the guy was like, "Yeah," and he was like, "Good to check in," and just cracks on with it.
Oh my
And it
God.
was maybe just him showing off, like, I remember everyone.
So he's got a
But
photographic
like
memory.
maybe, but I've done that. I've had moments where I've like, oh, I've performed to you before. It was at
Yeah.
this gig. You were sat there.
Yeah, it was at the
Dum,
Tommy
ba, dum, ba,
Field. You
dum.
made it a clip.
Oh yeah. That was the no. That was the lady who has been to see my most recent show 9 times.
Great stuff.
Which is like cool, but don't sit in the front.
Who would open?
Opening the gig. I always think opening's interesting. You do sort of like need to set the tone a little bit. Like there's certain gigs in London that are very the lineups they book are very like happy and gentle and like lovely comedy, which I think is like completely valid, but very much not what I do. And I find that if I close those gigs, then a tone has been set that makes me seem horrific. And I really struggle to like sort of do that. But if I open those same gigs, then it's like fine because I'm the person that gets to set the tone, and then their stuff works as like like a sort of tonic to that. But I find if everybody's feeling a bit warm and cuddly, it's often not going to be my night. Um, and I think I probably have the names I want to include, but I haven't really considered. I'd love to do no particular order. Can we do like a bucket show where it's just names in a hat?
Absolutely.
Right. Kill Vittorio.
Yeah, kill Angelone. Uh,
That's better. Kill
Both
Vittorio.
no,
great. Both
you had the
great.
premise. I just tagged it up. The let's go Patrice O'Neill. And I don't know how much of the Always Be Comedy podcast audience will like know Patrice O'Neill, but like
Oh, I
to
think they'll be
me,
well on board.
I
He
think
gets
he
picked
is
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
just he's fucking amazing and horrible. And maybe he is the right person to open because it's like it is sort of glorious to have him just like set the tone of like, no, this isn't going to be pandering to what you want to hear. This is just going to be funny, and you're not going to like the fact that you're laughing, but you're going to be laughing.
That observation, is it on Opie and Anthony? The observation about the guitar riff from and what that does to white people.
In Radiohead's Creep.
I
Yeah,
must
yeah,
think
yeah.
about that once a week.
It's so good.
It's
So
what
good.
an observation that is. It's just extraordinary. You know, people
Yeah,
say about
God,
certain comedians
he's
are brilliant because they've spotted something obvious and they've said the thing that we've all thought, but not. There's nothing obvious about that. It's such a deep cut, but it's so
yeah, so
brilliant. You know,
insightful
so insightful.
in an amazing way. Yeah, I think Patrice O'Neill, I think Elephant in the Room is the funniest special ever,
So
in my
funny.
It's
opinion. Like, and
unbelievable.
that is a different conversation than like best special ever, if that makes sense. Like, I think there's probably ones that are more like
Yeah.
beautifully crafted, and you've got like Acaster's repertoire and like all of those things. It's a slightly different conversation, but I think premise for premise, punchline for punchline, and the way he weaves it all together with the audience involved is like spectacular. And I think that's often nice for an opener to bridge that gap between crowd work and material. And he sort of pulls every enormous routine out of the crowd as if it's just a riff, but like there's no way it is. But just the way that show flows together because it's like, and you over here, you look like this, and here's a whole bit about this that seems completely improvised, but is obviously like an unbelievably well written and crafted joke. I think, yeah, he's the best.
Great choice. Who's in the middle?
Let's chuck Sam Campbell in the middle just for a bit of fun. I'd love to see him follow Patrice O'Neill. I'd love to hear what he had to say after Patrice O'Neill was on stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man,
We
great.
did a we did a story. I won't spoil when it happened, but we had a story to him about Sam did the previous person's routine as like a joke. Is that right?
Oh, That
Should I
rings.
not?
Oh, yeah.
Do we need to edit that out?
No. That's fine. That's fine.
That's so funny. I mean, Sam just goes for whatever he thinks the funniest thing to do in the moment is.
I mean, the guy is just. Paul McCaffrey said to us, he's like, I think he might be the greatest comedian ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so it's funny above anything else. When he did my new material gig, he did like 10 minutes about the way Mike Rice's knees are angled when we record our podcast. And it was like, this is the only gig where you could talk about that in any kind of detail. And even then, of the 30 people in the room, 10 of them don't watch the podcast. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but he was like, oh, his knees are at a funny angle. It was just like, he's amazing. And I can only imagine, I don't know if this is true, but Sam strikes me as somebody that, like, there's a good chance he was absolutely dog shit for quite a long time. And then it all clicked one day.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
great comedy brain, so funny, all about the funny. Tim, I wasn't there. What was that gig where he got everyone to hold a candle?
Oh, but yeah, so many of those instances. He gave everyone. He brought so many people on stage, gave them all candles, left it on stage, and he was playing in the background. He just like creates like moments. It's really,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
just
Well,
impossible to predict. He's
yeah.
unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Well, when he came on at that gig that I was just talking about, he was drinking a pint of beer from a Polly Pocket.
Yeah. Oh, was he? Right.
Oh my
He
god,
was like, and he
amazing!
just goes, they ran out of glasses.
Wow, that's so
He's
great. When
drinking out of a Polly Pocket. And then Tim, what did you do at our place? Again, I was on a warm up.
he was drinking beer out of like a
Carry bag.
cellophane like folder or something.
That was it.
I mean, yeah, just someone who I don't know how his brain works. It's an amazing thing.
A
And what's
beautiful.
nice about it is like there's a lot of people who like perform kookiness
Yeah.
on
Oh,
on
mate,
stage, but his is so
performative,
authentic.
performative kookiness. Because if you, those guys, anything that's performative like that and not authentic, you are like, you might be fooling some of these guys, but you're not fooling me. But
But even
Sam,
I think audiences can smell it a mile off if
yeah.
something is put
Alan,
on.
in
People
Alan
just get
Carr,
it.
in Alan Carr's first book, he says something about audiences have a much better inbuilt bullshit detector than you might realise, and I totally 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Great pick.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
who would close this juggernaut?
Now, I know I'm supposed to have a woman at some point on this lineup, but I think that there'd be. We're just picking comedians that are for us, and it's much more likely that a male comedian is going to have stuff that suits my perspective on the world. So I'm not going to do that because I think it would be false and tokenizing to be like, and this person, whatever. I will say Sarah Millican is truly one of my favorite comedians. I think what she's done and managed to carry forward, like post being on TV, is just like, oh, you are still doing arenas in
Yeah,
Canada.
yeah, that's
Like,
right. Yeah,
what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
just
yeah.
an absolute sort of juggernaut of live stand-up touring and is really supportive and like bringing other people up and having other
And then the
people on her
tour's so
shows.
brilliant that people come back. She gets that
Oh
obvious
God.
repeat
Yeah.
business.
Exactly. And bring their friends and that old
Yeah,
school sort of
brilliant.
building a touring audience because people come back. I always like that bit of Alfie's about someone said he's a room splitting comedian, but he says he's a room distilling comedian
That's
because
right. Yeah,
it's not an even split of like half of them don't like it. He's like, no, the good ones really like it. The good audience members.
Yeah.
So like at the end of his tour shows, he said, I'd love to come back here next year and perform to a smaller but better audience.
Yeah.
But I think to close the gig again, a real live phenomenon of just like, I can't believe we are seeing this and how soulful it is. And I almost like get, uh, I would love to see him react to having to follow that lineup that's just happened if John Kearns was closing it.
amazing.
Order. Yeah. Brilliant.
Like his opening stanza of that set following Daniel Kitson, Patrice O'Neill, and Sam Campbell would like just he would be, what the fuck?
Tim, you're the chairman of the John Kearns fan club.
He's up there. He's number. He's is as good as it gets. It's as good as it gets.
He'd be on your
So
Mount
in the
Rushmore,
room.
I think.
So in the room.
That's
It's
something I want to work on so much of. I think that thing that Kitson and Kearns both have,
In fact,
where they both have like narrative, thematic, like brilliantly structured shows, but they have breathing space and they're not scared to go off piste because they know they'll come back and they won't miss anything and whatever. Whereas I think my shows can become so ironclad and like welded together that even though I think it is like a strength of mine, and Tim, I think the best set I've had at Always Be Comedy was last minute Finn
yeah.
Taylor couldn't make it, and I showed up and had absolutely nothing and just sort of went for it and just like saw what happened. I think that is a strength of mine. But once I have a show that I'm really proud of, I get very nervous about leaving the show because then it might not get back to it and they might not get the best version of it. But I think I'm sacrificing the potential of like a home run gig versus like, making a connection with the ball where it's like I think I need to back myself a bit more to take those risks that Kearns and Kitson do to go away and then come back.
Well,
is,
Kearns was closing that gig, and I remember he was like, "Oh, who's on?" I was like, "Oh, Victoria's on at the moment." He said, "Oh, he's proper about you."
Kearns is amazing. Kearns is so sneaky. Kearns watches everything that everyone has
He
ever done.
he doesn't have any social media, and he knows what everyone's up to all the time.
He has quoted multiple crowd work clips of mine to me,
Yeah.
I,
and I
I,
just
I've said to John, "Oh, such and such picked you on the Always Be Comedy podcast," and he goes, "Oh, I am aware."
But I love like talking to him about that. I'm like, you watch everything, you're sort of aware of everything, and he's like, yeah, you have to know the context within which you're creating what you're creating, and I think that is such a good point of, and you can see that happen to comedians who get very, very big, and they're not on the circuit anymore. And I won't name any names, but they come back and maybe they're trying stuff at Top Secret or at like Always Be occasionally. Maybe I've seen it where they do a premise and you go, oh, that's been done a million times. But because they're not on the circuit and they're not watching what other people are doing, it's not that they're any worse or they've like dulled their edge, but it's just like, no, you need to know
One
what you're
hundred,
making.
100%, and this is why, say, Kevin Bridges will always be
Oh
one
yeah.
of the all-time greats
Oh yeah.
because he's still doing the clubs, so he knows what's relevant, what's been done before, what's not been done before, what's funny, and so on. Whereas Vittorio, I could not agree more. The guys that have taken their eye off the ball for whatever reason, and then
Justifiably.
they might go on tour. We might watch that bit or listen to that bit, and you're like, "Fuck it, how's no one had a word with them there?" You know.
But then a lot of those audiences aren't like stand-up comedy audiences, they're like TV audiences or people who just like them from this thing that they host or whatever. And it's like, yeah, nobody's gonna call them. And it probably does serve that audience quite well. They're not hearing the everybody else's self-checkout bit. But it's like, and I hope that doesn't imply that I'm talking about anybody other than Ed Knight because he references it brilliantly. We just shot his special actually. I'm building a little production company and we filmed his special at the Phoenix. Um,
Amazing.
and he has a bit about self-checkouts. And he goes, oh, is it a bit hack to do material about self-checkouts? And he goes, Van Gogh wasn't the first to paint the landscape.
So hang on, you've got your own production company.
Yeah, I'm building with me and my cousin. So we'll have two. So we have the podcast one, which is Parenting Productions, and we're building a studio to like maybe have other people's podcasts in there as well. And then we also, um, my sort of company, which is named after my family's old ice cream shop in Belfast, Victor's Cafe. So technically, my special is a Victor's Cafe production, and then we filmed ads, and we're chatting to some more people about like building out a little portfolio of like doing specials for people for very cheap, so we can learn our sort of craft of the filming and the production side of things. And I always think it's so sad when I see a brilliant Edinburgh show that I'm like, oh, that'll just be gone
Yeah.
and it's never sort of committed to memory and there's a loveliness to that. Like I know Tim Key talks about not filming things and it has to be live and you have to see it in the room and then there's a there's something very magical about the fact that it's only ever existed live and hasn't been forced onto a screen. But I do think it's nice to have a body of work. The reason we like all of these comedians and we grew up watching all these comedians is because they put out a DVD or they did a Netflix special or whatever. And I think it's a shame. So I'm hoping to like stop that from happening and give people the chance to avoid being like overcharged to film their special and by some mad company.
That's amazing. Has there been an incident that you would love to somehow replicate at this gig?
So like, do you ever have a memory on the tip of your tongue? I remember I looked at this question and went, oh yeah, that'll do. That'll be a good story about that. And it's just escaping
I
my
had an audience member last night look like Santa, and that was a gift from the comedy gods.
a great time of year for that. A
Oh,
great time of year to have
I hugged
a
him on the way out.
Santa-esque audience. Well, I think there's that one moment which was a massive moment in terms of my like following online, which was when I was opening for Dan Nightingale and a lady was coughing quite a lot in the front row. And this was 2022, maybe no, maybe late 2021. And I sort of said, "Oh, I know we're pretty much out of the pandemic, but like I think I might phone the police." Uh, and then her son goes, "It's cancer, not COVID." And it was one of those moments where I just everything I riffed just landed well, and I sort of had to go with this woman for having cancer, and was like, "You've still got hair. What the fuck are you complaining about?" Like, I just completely tore into her. Happened to be filming at the back of the room, and just before I went on, the tech guy came in and went, "Oh, do you want to start your camera? Because you hadn't started it yet." And if he hadn't have come in and been like, "Do you want to start your camera?" I wouldn't have this like 3 or 4 minute long clip of me like dealing with this woman, Julie, who comes back and sees me in Birmingham and Nottingham every tour, and I always give her free tickets, just so I know that she's still alive. Um, but yeah, just one of those moments where you go, that wasn't a heckle, that wasn't anything like bad or anything, but it was just this. Everybody gelled around it, and then somebody came back in from the toilet while I was making fun of her for having cancer, and I was like, "Look, this looks really bad." And he was like, "Oh, I had to take a text message." And I was like, "Well, you don't have to take a text message. You have to take a phone call." And I was like, "What was the text?" And he was like, "My granddad fell over." And I just dropped the microphone. You know, one of those where it's like just a perfect storm of like disaster, but everybody's enjoying the disaster of it. So I think if something like that could happen, you hear tell of Kitson dealing with stuff like that, where like, there's the person in the front in the second row who he makes fun of for wearing sunglasses inside. And they're like, "Oh, I'm blind." And he's like, "Why the fuck are you in the second row? That's such a waste. Like, be at the back." And then the one where he got somebody to introduce him as like a violent sex offender or like a pedophile. And then people are like booing him as he comes onto the stage. And then somebody goes, "I work with vulnerable children. You're a disgrace." And he goes, "You work with vulnerable children? Any lookers?" And it's just like things going wrong in the right way. So yeah, I think if somebody in the audience could have cancer, I think that would be good.
But I mean, listen. I mean, that's a tightrope, and so, that takes special skills to pull that one off, mate.
Yeah, I think as well. I got lucky because it was like Dan's audience who knew me from Have a Word, and like everybody was quite on board, and she was brilliant. Just that moment where you're like, the person gives you like facially and with their body language gives you full permission to just like go for it, keep going. I'm loving this, even if anybody else is uncomfortable. Like just being given full license to have as much fun as possible.
Right.
Superb. There has been an incident that must not happen at this gig.
Very early on, there was a lady, a friend. I used to host the Tuesday nights at South Ken Comedy Club, which is a tiny little sort of room above a pub in South Kensington. And sort of average attendance was 11 people and like doing a bucket speech at the end. And I was always hosting. And I did learn quite a lot of like chops from doing that. It's a very touristy audience and everything. But one time when we actually had reasonably good numbers and I was excited about it, a French lady in the front row was playing Candy Crush throughout,
Oh my god.
like the whole time. And I was just like, this is so
Oh
disrespectful.
my god.
It's just awful. Just awful. The other one I don't want to happen is my first ever time doing 20 minutes ever on stage. Um, was in Belfast at my local pub that I grew up and like worked at when I was 17.
Oh no.
Um, and my mum and dad brought all of their friends and I died on my ass. And this woman started going on her phone And I was like, oh, like, why are you going on your phone? She was like, because you're not fucking funny.
Chris Martin used to have that joke about there was some guy texting on the front row. He said, "Excuse me, can you not text through my set?" He said, "I'm not texting, I'm deleting contacts." Just like doing phone admin in the middle of his set.
I'm organizing my apps into folders, actually.
Final question. Oh, Tim, I mean, I don't think you would always be commenting for this, Tim, but there was a double preview, and an audience member had come to see one of the previews but not the other, and they got a novel out for the other preview.
No.
Isn't that outrageous?
No, I always worry about that with a double preview because I once did a double preview with Rob Otten, who I love and is brilliant. But if you could think of two comedians with more disparate audiences,
Yeah.
it's not a bit. And actually, I think it would be less of an issue now. But whatever time in my career it was, maybe when Lad Bible had shared a couple of my things, it was like a very boozy sort of Irish, like rowdy audience. And Rob went on first, and I love him, and I think he's brilliant. But whatever my crowd was that night, just stared at him like, "What the fuck are you doing? Stop reading poems to us." And I just had to like, and it's a brilliant show, and I just had to sit there and be like, "Oh my God!" And it came off, and I was like, "Rob, I'm so sorry for all my fucking idiots ruining your work in progress." And he's like, "Oh no, it was good, it was whatever." And then I went on and spent the first 10 minutes of my preview telling them off for being mean to my friend Rob.
I mean, there are a number of reasons why we don't do double previews, and that's certainly one of them. Because you're right, you know, it's
Yeah.
It's a
people might
tricky
want to see
thing.
one and not the, you know. Right, final question: how do you unwind after a gig, Vittorio?
If it's a bad gig, I listen to Tyler the Creator's Goblin. Um, because the first like that whole album is the album called Goblin, certainly the title
It
track
is,
is, but
yeah, yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
yeah,
The therapy one.
mostly, yeah, that's the one that opens like, "I'm not a fucking role model, I'm a 19-year-old fucking emotional coaster with pipe dreams." And see,
Yeah.
after a bad gig, it's like him aggressively saying, "I'm not a fucking role model," is like, yeah, I didn't know them anything. And then if it's a good gig, it's Dvorak's Symphony Number 8 performed by the London Symphony Orchestra.
That's lovely stuff.
Great answers.
It's very, I think that's a good summation of like me as a guy, of like those two things, of quite a petulant, aggressive, like artsy rap fan, but then also just love a symphony.
Vittorio, thank you so much for doing the pod. Really
Oh, don't be
grateful.
silly. Thank you for
That
having
was
me.
that was absolutely Timo. That was fantastic. Huge thanks to Vittorio. What a brilliant episode. What a natural broadcaster. Tim, of course, you're absolutely right. The Rich Dosman intel is incredible.
Yeah, it was just because I had no idea. I don't know about you. I had no idea about all the stuff it had led to just from like a very quick couple of minutes on a podcast. It's amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Right, your favourite Vittorio memory?
Oh man, there's a few things I could go for. I think it's the fact he's at the level that he is from very much backing himself and just doing the work. It's as very trite as that might be to say. He's done the work. He's really backed himself, and the way it's paid out is really, really brilliant. First time I saw him in Edinburgh could also be one because it was just there's so much hype about the guy. It took me a while to get to see him, and then I saw that debut show, and it was just like, oh yeah, this guy is very much the real deal.
The fact that he's making it happen himself. There's no pissing and moaning. There's no
No,
why does the phone not ring. This
no,
is a guy who's picked his own phone up and made it happen himself, and I
yeah,
think that is so commendable.
so inspiring.
It's not just I'm being harsh on comedians who moan. It's not, we all know moaners in life,
Sure.
and Vittorio's the opposite. This is someone who he's almost a one-man comedy industry. I mean, the fact that he's setting up his own production company.
Yeah, really cool. Yeah,
So look, listen, I would say then we have lots of new and aspiring comedians listen to this podcast, I would say Vittorio is a real someone to really look up to and be inspired by. And I do think, you know, as Oasis sang, you've got to make it happen. And Vittorio is living proof of that, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're learning more and more of the comedians. Like, there's a lot less to rely on now in the industry. So backing yourself, it is the way forward. We've seen it with like Mike Rice again, obviously the compadre of Vittorio. Just so many people doing it themselves. They are just now the people in charge of the industry. It's just thrilling. It's thrilling.
Also, another Vittorio memory. He's bailed us out a couple of times, hasn't he? We've had a couple of late pulls, and Vittorio's comes to the rescue.
Yeah, he leapt on a show with hours to spare, and it's probably the best time I saw him. It was just so. It was a very confident performance, and I don't say that about many people, but it was just like, this guy is so in the pocket, and he knows exactly what he's doing. It's really a brilliant thing to watch.
When you have a late pull,
yeah,
it's the equivalent of, to bring back to football, your star player getting injured in the warm up. It's like that sort of. It's like it's a real what are we going to do sort of moment, and you need a hero to save you at the 12th hour. And, Vittorio he's always in our good books for that, and we're always any comedian that does that, we're always very, very grateful.
Awesome.
So yeah, Tim, be sure to watch the new special and be sure to catch him on tour. And I would say this with Vittorio, this is very much the start, isn't it?
It feels this way. Yeah, absolutely. The Apollo, it's a big step up, and I think it's very deserved. And yeah, it's only the beginning.
Can't say enough great things about him. We'll see you at a show soon. Thank you very much, as always. Lots of love. See you soon. Bye 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 bye.